Maya. Need to Gadash Mah. Tete Malkutar. Nehwade Savinach. Maya, O Baracha.
Give us this day
Haula Lachma,
our day.
Nesukana Yamana. Dafnan, Shwakenel Hayabin,
and leave us not
Ulatala,
in temptation,
El Nisyona,
but deliver us
Elapasan,
from every
Nimbisha,
for thine is the kingdom,
Vital Dilaki Makuta,
the power,
Uhaila Utishmokta,
and the glory.
La Allah, Amin, Amen. We invite you to breathe those words in and take those words into your meditation, given to us by our great way shower, reminding us that we were meant to experience heaven right here. And so it is. As we quiet the mind, relax the body, we create a space for the still small voice of God to breathe into us more deeply. Quieting the mind amplifies our own higher selves. The part of us that is God, the part of us that is one with each other. Allow the music now to take you on your very own sacred journey into the peace of God. gently now, begin to bring your attention to this moment, your physical body, this sacred sanctuary where we come to remember the truth of who we are and to share that truth with others. Thank you, Great Spirit, Father, Mother, God, Goddess, all that is. We are so grateful. Amen. All is well. All is well. God is balanced. All is well. There's perfection everywhere. All is well. And so it is.
All right. Our talk today is titled, Is Healthy Relationship an Oxymoron? And we will be sharing tools and experiences that have helped us and others manage some of the challenging stretches of relationship yoga with our partner, our friends, our family members, co-workers. So hopefully this will be helpful for all of us.
Yes, here's how you know you've resolved all of your relationship issues. You won't be here. So there's always something else to work on. Yay, we're here.
Right.
Angelina is a big fan of that word oxymoron. She loves that word oxymoron. So I'll give you a few of my favorites. Jumbo shrimp.
Right.
Patiently waiting. And my favorite, constructive criticism. Anyway, so yes, we're going to be sharing lots of different tools and things that we have used and that we've gone to workshops and studied that have helped us a lot, and we've seen it help countless others. Different little fun, simple things that we can do. One of the biggest challenges is when we think we know what's best for other people. Anybody? That? I mean, even if you do, it's just not a good thing to tell them that you know what's best.
Right.
But to think we know what's best for other people, and to think that something, just because it works for us, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everybody in the same way. I heard a story, because we all have our own individual path to spirit. And I heard a story about this lady that was walking through the woods, and she saw a frog. And the frog said, "I'm a magical, enchanted frog." And she said, "Oh, really? Do tell." "Well, if you kiss me on the lips, I will turn into a handsome prince, and I will invite you to come and live in my castle." She goes, "Okay, tell me more." "Yes, I will give you a life that you couldn't have otherwise. And it will just require a few things. You'll need to take care of all my needs and serve me, do all the cooking and the cleaning, and make sure I'm completely well taken care of." Well, later on that evening, while she was eating frog legs, she said, "I don't think so." But again, you see, one of the things that we can learn that will help us in relationships are love languages. Anybody study the 5 love languages? See, that frog thought her love language was opulence, and it wasn't. It was something different.
Right. So Love Language is a book by Gary Chapman, and there are different love languages that make us feel lovable and loved. So one of them is receiving gifts, act of service, quality time, words of affirmation, and physical touch. And so we found that it's really good to know what people's love languages are. When I was first married, my husband always gave me things. So, he'd buy me like an emerald necklace or, all these things that just I didn't really want, because mine is more like quality time and being of service and helping others, And so we didn't really connect in that way. But what I got later, after we were no longer together, is if I knew that because he was giving me gifts, that perhaps was his love language, and it was the way he was showing me how he loved me, even though it wasn't my love language, so it didn't mean the same thing to me. So anyway, it's kind of good to know what you and your partner or friends' love languages are.
And ours are very similar, but even if they're not, like, so for us, physical touch and quality time are our number ones, and so that works well. But even if you don't have the same love language as your partner, you try to give them what works for them, they try to give you what works for you, and there will be a tendency to want to give them, like your husband did, give you what means something to you. Give your partner what is your love language, what makes you feel lovable, and that doesn't always work. So it's really tricky to realize that all of us have this different style and this different path. We love to study personality profiles like the Enneagram and Myers-Briggs and all that, and they just give us insights of, like, sometimes you'll see somebody and you go, oh my gosh, I would never do that. That is ridiculous, but it makes total sense to their Enneagram number, and it makes total sense to their Myers-Briggs letters, because it's what comes natural to them. It doesn't have to be natural to you. One of the big tricks is to learn how to be respectful of different people's styles, different people's languages, different people's personalities. You don't have to agree with them, but to be respectful. Now, a lot of times people say, well, what about people that I have nothing in common with, and they always want to talk about stuff that doesn't interest me? Am I supposed to love them? And I'm like, well, yeah, you are. You're just not supposed to hang out with them that much. I always say, Jesus said, love thy neighbor. He didn't say, go hang out with them. You can love somebody and do it from afar. Tupac had a great statement. I want you to have a fabulous meal, just not at my table. And I love that. It's very important to do all this stuff with love. You can love somebody and still not be a vibration. I had a friend of mine that I was a good friend of for many, many years, over 20 years. And then we grew apart. And every time she would talk to me or I would talk to her, it just ended up weird. And so we tried to work on it, but it was just no longer a match. Anybody ever have that, like, especially in the last 12 years? You just find that what used to work doesn't work. Now, if you can find a new lane, that's kind of cool. Find a new lane that will work with that person, but it just wouldn't. And she was like, I don't understand. What is it? What did I do? And I said, I don't think it's about what you did. I think it's about the way you are and the way you speak doesn't vibe with the way I am and the way I speak, and I don't feel good. And finally I said to her, the only way I can describe it that will keep it personal, because when you keep it personal and say, I feel this, people can't argue with what you feel. But if you say, well, you did this, or it's because you are this, that doesn't work so well. We learned that. I can't tell her anything about what she is. I have to say what I'm feeling about anything. And so I said, person, you are a gorgeous, fragrant flower, but somehow I've become allergic to your pollen. And that's not on her. I'm the one that's allergic. She has great pollen. Everybody loves her. So that kind of idea works for me, is not making it that they did something wrong. Now, if there's a situation that you need to talk about that would help you be closer together, but we did that already. And it was like, nope, I'm this, you're that. When you're younger, when you're a child, and your parents don't give you what you want. So let's just use an analogy here. When you're young and let's say you wanted parents that gave you orange juice. Let's just say that's the kind of juice you wanted from them, a certain way of treating you. And they couldn't help it. They were apple trees, so they gave you apple juice because that's just who they were. And no matter what you said, you still got apple juice. You didn't get orange juice. So the smart thing would be to do when you get older, hang out with people that give you orange juice. But what we do, our ego does, I'm going to find an apple tree and get them to give me orange juice. Anybody ever do that? It's usually our first marriage. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So, all these little tools of being respectful and yet still taking care of ourselves. Brene Brown says, having really good, healthy boundaries makes you more loving. A lot of people say, oh, they got a lot of boundaries. They're not so loving. They're very exclusive. No, they are actually more loving because they take care of themselves. They put that oxygen mask on themselves first. You know, you've been on the airplane. If oxygen falls, please place on yourself and then on small children. If you have 2 kids, pick your favorite. They don't really say that. But
She also says about the no's and the yeses, which is powerful, too.
Yes. When you have a good friend that you trust, a lot of it is probably because they tell you like it is, and probably because when they have a no, they say, no, that doesn't work. And she says you can actually trust a yes from a person more if they've got a clear, firm no. And so it's not always about being nice, okay? It's about being effective, okay? Nice is okay if you're just saying hi to somebody at Publix. But in a relationship, you've got to think about how can I be effective in making a relationship work really great. I remember one time I was saying something to her, and I said, yeah, but I'm right. She goes, well, you might be right, but you're not effective right now in helping me feel loved. And I went, oh my God, then I'm doing it wrong, because my whole desire, and we got some of that languaging from Dr. Greg Bear.
Right, because he says, like, you know, if something like that's going on, a heated discussion, and he says, what he does is says, I don't know what you just said, but all I heard was you don't love me.
Isn't that a wonderful thing? You're not making them wrong. You're just saying somehow what you just said landed on me, like you don't really love me or respect me or care about me. Well, most people, if they're in a relationship with somebody and they hear that, they go, oh my God, that's not what I meant at all. No, what I was trying, you know, and then you'll find a languaging that will help the person feel loved. But once you say, you're a jerk, or I can't believe you said that to me, you idiot, then you get on what's called the field of death, where everyone dies, you know.
Right.
And when
So we're going to talk a little bit about Real Love by Dr. Greg Bear. His work is really amazing. So he says that we have behaviors, and so a lot of the behaviors are because we're trying to get something or protect ourselves. So it would be like lying, clinging, running, attacking. And then he also says these 2 laws. There's the law of expectation and the law of choice. So the law of expectation is I can ask Armand to make the bed, and he has the choice to say, I don't want to make the bed. But if I have an expectation that will you make the bed and he doesn't, then I can either have resentment or disappointment. And so in order to not be disappointed, I'm making the bed because I want it made. And I can ask him to make it, but he can lovingly say, no, I can't, or I don't want to do that. You know, I don't really understand why he doesn't make the bed.
I don't really understand why she does. You're just going to get in there the next night.
So anyway, and I have done this before. I get out of bed sometimes earlier than he, and so I'll make the bed on my half and around him, hoping that maybe he'll make his half when he gets up, and if he doesn't, I just
It does inspire me to make the bed. I remember one time, now another thing that Dr. Greg Bear says is he says, just because you can't expect somebody to do something doesn't mean you can't request it, okay? And that's the whole difference. You can request it. It would really help me. So I remember one time she came down and she said, Armand, somehow you think the back of the dining room chairs is a clothes rack. And how far does it go? Do you do that too? Am I hitting a nerve here? Do you do that too? And I go, well, I'm waiting till there's enough of them, and then I will bring them all upstairs. And she goes, well, when I see them, I don't like it. I don't like it, and I don't want to feel like I have to run around and do stuff. So she said something really great, and this she got from Dr. Greg Bear. You don't have to do it. I'll probably do it before you will, because you're going to wait until like it's 6 loads, but it would be a nice love gift if you chose to do it. You see, you take all the expectation about it, you take all the need out of it, but this is what I would like you to do for me as a love gift. And it makes things a lot better because you're not pressuring the person to do something that they don't want to do, but you're asking and requesting those kinds of love gifts.
Right. Okay, here's another tool. I don't know how I came up with this, but I found when I start to feel in a conversation a little heated, I blame it on menopause because sometimes I just don't know where my mood is going to go. So I learned really quickly that if I leave the room, then I can calm myself down and take some deep breaths and find out what that is. So when it's starting to get heated, and if I don't go out at the right time, forget it, I've blown up and it's not nice or fun. So when I start to feel that, I'll say to Armand, I'm going to go outside right now and sit in my chair. I'm not abandoning this conversation, but I need to calm myself down before I can lovingly talk about this. So I go outside and I sit there, and I don't ever go back in until I know what triggered. Is it just something that's my stuff, and I don't need to say anything because I'm just knowing, sitting there knowing that was just me? Or is it something that we need to talk about so that it doesn't happen again or happens in a different way? And so once I get all that figured, I can come back in the house and be calm and have a loving conversation then.
And usually in that time, I'm trying to figure out what I did and what I could have done better. And so I'm coming to the table too. And a lot of times she'll say, it's not about me, you. I got triggered because of what you said and blah, blah. And we just had that 2 days ago,
yeah, we did.
Saturday morning in the hotel. Yes, we did. And it triggered an old thing with her husband. And so I'm going, well, I could say that differently. I know your situation. I know that I could say that differently and everything would be fine. But again, it's giving yourself that peace to come back in filled up. He talks about when you're too empty, you're not going to be very good at conversation and you're not going to be good at relationship. It's like trying to do yoga poses when your muscles are all tired. Get strong and then come back in, and get filled up. If we're filled up, we can do more. And a lot of times, what we are looking at is like a mirror back to us that's mirroring something that we need to process, but we don't realize it's in us. Imagine waking up in the morning and you go to the mirror and your hair doesn't look right. And you go, what is wrong with you, mirror? I'm going to go get another mirror.
I do that every day, Armand.
I know, I'm going to go get another mirror. Then you go over here and you get another mirror. Oh my God, I picked another one of these losers. And that's because you keep projecting on these people stuff from your own inside, and then they mirror it back, and then you get mad at them. So it's very important to realize that on some level, not an absolute level, but on some level, people are mirroring back to us stuff that we need to look at, and we don't want to
and it could be
kill the messenger.
triggered from a childhood thing or something someone said to you when you were young, and
sometimes I don't even know why. I say it must be a past life thing, And so all these tools can be really, really helpful. You've all heard this before, but the idea that projection, we are projecting, which is like that mirror thing. But last year we got a movie projector and a 100-inch screen in our guest bedroom, and I haven't slept in the master bedroom once since the end of November because I love that room. It's huge and it's great. And so, but then I realized, this is it. This is it. We are the projector. And most stuff out there is a screen picking up what we're projecting, and then we're angry at the screen. We're projecting. Now, again, this is not an absolute thing. It doesn't mean that relationships don't require more than that. But to a certain extent, imagine that most of what you see is because you projected that out there into this blank slate, and then watch those visions without attacking them. Try to get an idea, what's in this for me? There's an old saying in Unity, everything is either a blessing or a blessing in disguise. Those ones in disguise are not that fun, I will admit, but a blessing or a blessing in disguise. So, in my personal relationships, when it came to romance, I always projected the same image. I always got the same unhappy ending, and I went, that person wasn't right for me. And I would go to the next one, and I would project the same image, and I had the same unhappy ending, and I would go, I keep picking the wrong people. And I did that 12 times before I met Angelina. And a few years before I met Angelina, I started thinking about it. I need to figure out what this common denominator is so I can avoid these women. Crud, it's me. And I realized, okay, well, if that's the truth, I'm doing this. Now, I had this thing in my head that said, 2 or 3 years after you meet someone, it'll get boring and stale and they will leave you. Well, I can tell you where that came from in my childhood, but it's not that important. What's important was I was the one watering those seeds. We can hold our caretakers accountable for the seeds they planted in us, but we are the ones that water them over and over again and wonder why they keep showing up. And so I took responsibility and I said, I'm going to decide that I'm lovable enough to where people won't dislike me, especially women will not dislike me after they've been with me a couple of years. And I will work on it and I will practice it. And so one of the things I did is I wrote a song about it. You know, as a songwriter, a lot of times I will pre-pave the road that I want in a song. I wrote a love song for Angelina before I ever met her a couple of years before, the exact type of relationship I would want to have. And then 2 years, and after singing it a bunch of times and feeling it and raising my vibration, then she showed up. And this other song I wrote as a country song that, because, you know, sometimes if you want the lyrics to be really fun and powerful, it's got to be country music. There are some, I mean, that song where this guy told this other person, here's a quarter, call someone who cares. Now that was a deep message in a country song. Anyway, so she'll come home sometimes shopping or something, and she'll come home with groceries, and she'll say, I listened to the country radio station today, and I heard this song about a red Dixie cup. Or I heard this other song, tequila makes her clothes fall off. We got to go listen to this. And they've got some really
God is great.
God is great, beer is good, and people are crazy. Now, I'm sorry. That's as good as it gets. So I say, well, I got to write a country song about relationships. Got my Toby Keith hat here. So this song will end this part. Oh, you have more stuff.
One more tool.
You have
Let's
more
sing
tools,
this song
please.
and I'll leave with one more tool.
How about do a tool? Do a tool.
Okay. So I'm the one that has all the tools. I don't know what that means. But anyway.
Because you're with a special needs child that you need to have lots of tools.
I don't know. Maybe I'm super sensitive. I don't know. Anyway, I found this to be a really good tool. Especially being in a car, because we're in a car a lot. So Armand says something, and it starts to irritate me, right? So I'm just like, okay, that's okay, that's okay. Then he says something again, and I decide to take a sip of water. Keep the water in your mouth, and you cannot talk. And it really does work, you know. So he says something, I take a sip of water, and he knows what's going on, and he's still talking, and I'm still going, oh my God, and I take another sip of water, and if he still doesn't stop, I'll hand it to him so that he will take a sip of water.
Now, that's a silly, funny little tool, but just the ritual of it gets you to breathe and gets you to be present and go, okay, what's happening here? It gets you out of that spiral, you know, that you can start to go into. And so the minute I see her grab the water, a lot of times I'll say, what I do? Armand, I'm thirsty. You know, I get nervous. She's grabbed the water. She grabbed the water. She went outside. She's not coming back. No, I'm over that abandonment. It's still in there. I still can't believe after 24 years I keep waking up with her. It's a miracle. Thank you. Come here. Thank you. Okay, so here's a song called "I Had to Be Somebody." It's a little country song. Well, I've been waiting for you to love me. I dressed up nice so you would see me. I did everything I could to please you. I sang you a song so I could tease you. But I didn't know what to do to make you love me too. Cause I had to be somebody you could love. Had to be somebody. I had to see your love inside of me. Had to be somebody. I had to be somebody you could trust. Had to be somebody. Instead of looking at you, I started looking at me to be somebody. I had to be somebody, yeah. Well, I've had those who said they loved me, 12 of them. They always held their hearts above me. But that all changed when I found you. I even even got married once before. She left me too. But I didn't know what to do to give my heart to you, 'cause I had to be somebody you could love. Had to be somebody. I had to see your love inside of me. Had to be somebody. I had to be somebody you could trust. Had to be somebody. Instead of looking at you and you and you, I started looking at me to be somebody. I had to be somebody, yeah. All right, we're going into some deep country now. Change yourself and you'll change your world. Find yourself and you'll find that guy or girl. Whoa, whoa, whoa. George Strait, eat your heart out. Can you imagine George Strait with a scarf like this? Guess he wouldn't be straight no more, would he? Oh. Woo! Well, then I found out what to do. It's gonna make you love me too. I had to be somebody you could love. Had to be somebody. I had to see your love inside of me. Had to be somebody. I had to be somebody you could trust. Had to be somebody. Instead of looking at you and you and you, I started looking at me to be somebody. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Woo! I had to be somebody. Yeehaw! I had to be someone. Thank you very much. Woo! So hopefully some of these fun little tools will help you in your relationship yoga, and you can stretch right into it, and so it is.